AM860, FM 95.1, KWPC. Jerry has been around the block a time or two and knows all the fishing hotspots in your area. From area rivers to streams to ponds, Jerry will give you hot tips on his weekly fishing update. Jerry also talks to movers and shakers in the field and answers questions like, where do you start this time of the year? What are the fish biting on? And more. Waste less time by understanding the fish and their habits. Jerry's Outdoor Show is brought to you by CWB Construction, The Country Gun Store, Quality Garage Door, Big Papa's Nuisance Wildlife Control, Tailwater Marine, and Wolf Contracting. Jerry's Outdoor Show, Fridays from 10 to 11 on AM 860, FM 95.1, KWPC.
Welcome to Moving Forward, sponsored by MPW Mocklink TV and Mocklink Internet, online at mpw.org. Each weekday morning, our local talk segment brings you the people who are helping move our community forward. Let's start the show.
Good morning, AM 860 FM 95.1 KWPC. I'm Jordan Davis. Thanks for joining us this morning once again for Moving Forward. As always, brought to you by Muscatine Power and Water. Before you buy almost anything, you try it first, right? So why not internet, TV, and phone service? With Mocklink, you can try it before you buy it. A whole month of any new service on MPNW. Details at mpw.org. Thanks for tuning in once again. This is Moving Forward. I'm joined in the studio by the Board of Supervisors, Nathan Mather. How are you this morning, Nathan?
Doing all right, Jordan. A little tired. How about you?
A little tired. I can totally understand that. This winter weather, I think, is really getting to me. I'm sick of seeing it out dreary and just awful outside like it is today. But this morning, I got up. When I got out here, it was a little bit brighter than it had been, and the birds were chirping.
Well, hey, I hope so. But I think the good news is we only have 3 or 4 more months of winter left.
3 or 4 months? No.
It feels like it,
no,
right?
I hope not. You know, it's funny, you say that, but 5 or 4 months from now is May. Right, or three months from now is May. Now, hardly 2 months.
We had snow in April or May last year, didn't we?
I don't remember.
I think we. Yeah. Anyway, I don't even.
I don't want to think about it. I don't want to even think about it. I want it to just be over. That's what I'm hoping for. All right. So we've got a whole bunch of stuff to talk about this morning, but there was one thing you said you wanted to start with. So go right ahead.
Well, sure. Just like I said, County Board of Supervisors just handles the affairs of the county and couldn't do it without the excellent support of all our fine staff. And we've got a lot of things going on right now. We've just finished our budget, and that's going to be for a public hearing in the next couple of weeks here. We're undergoing a courthouse renovation project, and I don't know, hopefully people aren't down in the courtroom all that often, but when they are, if you look up, there's been just a drop ceiling in that main courtroom that's boring. In the process of this courthouse renovation, we found these really neat period ceilings up there, and the work is being done to restore that and to expand the courtroom, to modernize it, bring it into at least the 20th century.
Gotcha.
And it's going to be really state of the art. And so that's an interesting thing. Out at the Discovery Center here, we are expanding by putting in some. Getting rid of the porta potties finally, putting in some permanent restroom facilities, I think that are going to be going up. I'm not exactly sure when, but certainly not before the ground thaws. I think they should be ready for the summer. And down at Deep Lakes, we are moving forward on putting in some cabins. I know we've been talking about that for quite a while, but the wheels of government churn slowly sometimes, but that is definitely moving ahead. So there's a lot of neat things that we're involved in, and then there's some challenging things. One of those I mentioned is our budget. For the last, I don't know how many years, we've well over a decade, we've prided ourselves on holding our tax rate pretty close to even and keeping it fairly low. I mean, that to us, you're just people that make sense. Let people do what they want with their stuff as long as they're not hurting anybody else. Unfortunately, due to circumstances largely outside of our control, this year it looks like our budget's going to be going up. Our tax levy is going to be going up a little bit. And I wanted to go over just a couple of reasons for that. The first is I think I've talked before on here about the mental health challenges that our region faces and the county's taxation limits that are imposed by the state. So because of that, we had to drop our budget way down one year, and then this year we have to raise it back up in order to meet the requirements of this law.
Gotcha.
So that is about 65 cents per $1,000 evaluation that you're going to see going up in your tax bill. Another, as if the state's experiments with artificially capping what counties can do hasn't proved disastrous enough, they're now thinking about something called It's called HSB 165. And basically what it would do is it would take away almost all authority of the county to set their own tax rates. Instead, it sets a maximum. And then using some formula that's derived by probably fairly arcane methods, they would grant you a certain amount you could go up every year. And the problem with that is, what if you have a disaster one year? What if you have an emergency one year and you need to levy more funds? Well, there is a provision for that, but it's incredibly onerous, and it's very expensive for a county to go through. So, as I told you with the mental health, I'm not a huge fan of the state putting caps and limits on what counties can do to serve county residents. And so I think this is a bad idea. But basically, because it sets the cap at where your levy is this year, we said, well, we weren't taxing the most we could, but we needed to raise it a little bit more just to protect against the future. We can always drop it, but we have to establish that cap just in case there is an emergency so that we have that space above where we are in order to handle things. So those are the kind of administrative things. And so between the state's actions and some of the other things, our levy is going to be going up around $1, which is pretty significant, unfortunately. Mm-hmm. At least that's going to account for $1 of increase. It's balanced in other areas, but one thing I think that's been on a lot of people's mind recently is the discussion of the use of slag in Muscatine County. And this is something, I'll be honest, before November 1st, I did not know a whole heck of a lot about, and I'm no expert, but I know a lot more than I ever thought I would about slag. So I'm going to try and do like a 3-minute, if we get that much time, crash course. But basically, slag is a byproduct of the steel production process. It kind of looks like rocks, and they're supposed to mill it and take, metal crap out of it so you don't get a nail stuck in it or something like that. And then back in the 2000s, the Iowa, I don't remember, it was the Department of Natural Resources, the Department of Public Health. They overlap quite a bit, but they approved it for use on the roadways. And they did it using samples that they had taken at the time, looked at it and said, yeah, this stuff is safe. Well, lo and behold, in I think it was 2014, the Iowa legislature passed a law that exempted slag from this kind of regulation and examination by the Iowa authorities. So it kind of got a pass all of a sudden. And, like many laws in Des Moines that don't immediately affect people, it probably went under the radar. And we didn't find out about that until, in fact, just this January. So it would seem that some of the components of the slag had changed, and whether that's just natural drift in the process, whether that's people thinking, hey, we're off the examine list, we can get away. I don't know. I tend to think the best of people until it's proven otherwise. So, I do know that supply chains have expanded. They're starting to get materials from everywhere. Who knows? But the early data that we've gotten back now, thanks to some folks who have brought this to our attention, indicates that there are some heightened levels, at least in the stuff that's being stored up at their facility. That there may be heightened levels of some heavy metals in there. And again, I'm not an environmental guy. I couldn't tell you, how much is safe and how much is not. But the indications are that it might be above the levels that are considered safe. And so what we have done on the board is back in January, presented with initial information from the state about some of this, we said we had a motion, we suspended the use of it. So we're not using slag now. In fact, we haven't used any slag since June of 2018, is my understanding. And this is a product that is used worldwide. It's all over the place. So, and we were under the impression from what the state had told us that it's just fine and dandy. Now, we've had complaints from time to time about people finding junk in it. I don't know if that's a quality control issue or a broader issue. But so we started investigating that. Then we got indications from the state that, hey, there's some slightly elevated levels of something called manganese, which, from my very admittedly limited understanding, manganese it's an essential nutrient, but like anything, you get too much of it, it's no good. So that's why we put the moratorium, the temporary halt into place. So now we have the state is trying to take samples. They've been meaning to come out for the last month, but the weather hasn't been all that cooperating.
It's difficult to get to the
ground
ground with all this.
I mean, geez, I can't even get kids to school some days. So, so we want to find out A, what's on our roads. B, the information that we saw, and there was a helpful meeting last night where they presented that some of the stuff that if we ever were to restore slag, it would be put on the roads, contains some of these things. So we're trying to figure out what's out there now, and if we don't act, what would be out there. So, like I say, I just saw this information for the first time last night. The presentations that I saw up at the Wilton Community Center were pretty impactful. I want to go over the data, and I want to go over the data with someone who can translate whatever I can't understand. But it seems to me that there's a real concern there. So, but like I said, right now it's on hold. We're not doing anything. We've got no plans to do anything. And in fact, the one component of our budget that is also going up is all the supervisors directed the county engineer to budget for no slag, because slag is quite a bit cheaper as a gravel substitute or a road rock.
Yeah.
So we've had to increase the levy in order to enable him to make all of his purchases out of a high quality road rock.
Gotcha.
Or whatever the road rock is that he normally uses. So that's why we're seeing some of those increases. But so right now, we're taking a look at that data. Of course, the company Harsco and SSAB are telling us, hey, our stuff's safe, and we'd like the opportunity to prove that to you. And, my thought is, we're in a democracy, and I'm a lawyer, so everybody gets their day in court. We've seen a lot of presentations by the folks in the Slag Committee with a lot of, I think, pretty telling data. The state's going to be getting us some results as soon as the weather clears up. And so we want to hear what, the folks from the company have to say, because right now, everyone's quite polite about it, but, the folks in one place are saying, oh, well, the people over there who have a different opinion, they're either misconstruing the data or they're off base, Mm-hmm. So, like I said, we're not environmental people. We're people with jobs who do this on the side. So, we want to hear everything, get as much information as possible, and then, make a quality decision. But, until that information is available, nothing's going out, and nothing has gone out. And one thing I've been concerned about is I think people are getting a little bit alarmed unnecessarily. We've had this situation compared to natural, like Superfund disaster sites, and that's not occurring. We've had people say, call us up, and legitimately I feel bad for them, say, my husband got cancer so many years ago, and he died. Is that because I have slag in my road? And, we looked at the person calling, there's never been slag put on your road, ma'am. So it's kind of that confirmation bias sometimes when you start to think you're seeing something, you'll find your mind will find ways to see it.
Right.
And that's not to say that there might not be long-term health effects. We just don't know.
Right. It's hard to judge those long-term effects,
sure.
Because we're kind of in this weird point in time where we are finally able to do true testing and see what's in stuff, but we can't see the long-term effects because time has not passed in order to see the long-term effects. So it's just a lot of it's a kind of wait and see stuff. Do as much testing as you can, and learn what you can while you can.
Yeah. So and really the message I would give the folks out there is, whatever you heard, you may have heard stuff from very different sources. Some people saying you could eat this stuff. Some people saying I wouldn't come near this stuff. Mm-hmm. We're getting to the bottom of it. We're going to hear all information, and it's not being applied now. Hasn't been applied for almost a year. So everybody, I think if we all take a deep breath, if we all relax.
Just take a step back and just observe.
And let's get to the truth, And I've seen some numbers that are really disturbing, and I want to, like I say, analyze those numbers and have a chance to really dive into them. And because I got kids. I got 3 kids. I just dropped them off at school. I don't want them, in danger.
Exposed to anything, right.
But I also want, I want to take care of them as I want to take care of the 40,000 other taxpayers in the county. So, it's always a balancing act. And one thing you learn is you don't do this to make friends.
Right.
Because, that's not going to happen. You try and please everybody, you please nobody. And sometimes no matter what you do, you please nobody. But, you got to be guided by your gut and doing the right thing. So I believe we got good people. We're trying to do that. And I just thank everybody for their interest and for all the hard work they put into the issue.
Absolutely, because it's important too that not only that you guys take a look at it for the fact, that it could be an environmental issue. It could be whatever. It could be impactful to individuals here, but also that the community knows you guys are taking it just as seriously as they are, because you want to know for yourself. So
absolutely.
And it's really encouraging to see, especially. So it's great. It's been great to have you on and get to kind of hear.
I appreciate it.
I've heard folks talking a little bit about it, and I have heard some of those fears that you've mentioned, like what could this mean for us? But it's good to hear that the county's looking into it.
Yeah. Well, it's like that game of telephone you play as a kid. You start and you start here, and pretty soon it ends up way up here, and stuff gets distorted. So I really appreciate the chance to just have a medium to get out to people, tell them what's going on. And if they've got any questions, give us a yell. We're here. We try to be transparent. We try to answer everybody's queries. I can't promise we're always going to get everybody perfectly satisfied, but we're just like you. We live in the county. We eat and breathe in the county, so we want to know too.
Absolutely. Well, thanks, Nathan. We really appreciate having you on this morning.
Hey, Jordan. Thanks so much.
Nathan Mather joining us from the County Board of Supervisors. Talk a little bit about some stuff going on here in Muscatine. Be sure to keep a close eye. We'll keep you updated, too. I'm sure we'll hear about it. I think somebody mentioned that we might hear something in the paper about the meeting, too. So it is just information as much as we can get out to you so that you can stay up to date, too, with what they're figuring out. So thanks for tuning in. For Moving Forward, as always, brought to you by Muscatine Power and Water. It is important to try it before you buy it. You can get a whole month of any new service on MP&W. Get those details at mpw.org. I'm Jordan Davis for the Voice of Muscatine.com.
You've been listening to Moving Forward on the Voice of Muscatine, KWPC, AM 860, FM 95.1. Thanks to our sponsor, MPW Digital TV and MockLink Internet, the local providers at mpw.org. And remember, Moving Forward, each weekday at 8:15 to learn how Muscatine is on the move.